With Up Arts Incubator Art Gallery, and I am interviewing our current artist of the month, Jeff Reeder. Hello, Jeff. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you.
So, Jeff, when did you know you wanted to become a photographer?
Probably around when I was 5. I had an old box camera that I loved to take around and shoot. I shot, kids in the neighborhood, and I remember first day of kindergarten setting up the whole class for class portraits. That was kind of the beginning of it all.
That's really interesting that you set up your class for class portraits, especially since now you teach photography at a local charter school and end up doing the same exact thing. So it's definitely...
Been doing it my whole life.
Something you've done your whole life, that's right. So, since you were interested in photography since the age of 5, did you study photography in college?
Yeah, I went to Tyler School of Art.
And what was your experience there?
Art school is invaluable, mostly for peer review, having all sorts of other artists around you all the time to inspire you and always be creating new stuff and always thinking, because in everyday life you don't have that.
That's right, and that's one of the reasons why I started this gallery, was because I missed that atmosphere of art school where we could, critique each other's work and bounce ideas off of each
Very
other.
much.
Yeah, because I really felt like that made you push the envelope of what you were trying to say with your work.
Mm-hmm. I've wanted more of that for years. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I've known you for many, many years. So I would say, even your senior thesis show, I feel really embodies the work that you do now. The work you do now, there's a common thread from that senior show until now.
Mm-hmm.
Can you talk about that a little bit?
I don't know, from early on with photography, even in college, we had kids fairly early, so I kind of had to kick into gear making money in photography, so I shot a lot of portraits and events and things like that. So I had an outlet of people and things. So my artwork, personal artwork, was more about kind of just what was in my head, what was I thinking. It's all kind of about psychology and not necessarily the outside world, but more the inside world. So of course there's going to be a connection between what I've done in college and what I've done now, because it's all kind of what's in my head.
Now I remember in your college show, it wasn't just a straight image. You, way back then, were layering images, but in a much more manual manner than we do today because of the digital age.
Mm-hmm.
So, do you still do that layering of images now in your work?
Very few of my art images are digitally manipulated. Most of the layering of images are natural layers.
So still manually achieved.
Yeah. I mean, some of them aren't, but
right.
I try to do it as naturally as possible if I do it digitally.
Right. And would you like to speak about the meaning of some of your work? You mentioned psychology, but in your artist statement, you talk a lot about memories and attachments and ghosts of memories. So,
well, I think that's all what makes up your psychology, is things, memories in your head and feelings and emotions. So with my artwork, I'm trying to show that. I'm not big on talking about my feelings or emotions, so I like to put it out there in artwork. I think I'm naturally introverted, but I have an extroverted self inside of me that wants to express itself. So that's what the artwork's all about.
Okay.
It's not necessarily, they don't have specific meanings. A lot of them are more about feelings of, something that I was feeling at the time. And I'll give it a title that'll tell you a little bit about something like that. And if you ask me now what a certain piece was about, I might not remember exactly what I was thinking or feeling at the time, but I think you can still get that if you connect the title with the piece.
Sure, okay. Over the years, you've started to play with encaustic artwork. Can you kind of explain what it is to make encaustic artwork and the process and why you were drawn to it?
Ever since college, I've been kind of torn with how to show my work. I didn't like just sticking it in a frame with a mat like everybody else did. I wanted the frame and the presentation to say something about the piece itself as well. So in college, I used a lot of antique frames because a lot of it was about memories and how that was affecting my life at that time. And, the time that our first kid was born. So that was all kind of wrapped up together, and everything was in gold frames because everything was grand, and there was just a specialness to that.
There definitely is.
But now, I didn't want to keep doing the same thing.
Sure.
And I was inspired mostly by Jasper Johns because he did a lot of heavily layered encaustic paintings. Maybe not content, his content was much different than mine, but I love the layering and the feel and the dripping and the way that nature can affect the piece.
What exactly is encaustic for those watching who do not know?
Encaustic is basically a beeswax mixture.
Okay.
But I love the idea of encasing something in wax. If you put something in wax, you're kind of preserving it. So not only does it give it a texture that makes you look at it thinking, is that a painting or is that a photograph, but it also is about preserving and encasing. And it can also change with the environment. If you put it in a hot room, it's gonna change. It's gonna melt. If you expose it to different things, it might change tone or something like that. But I think the encaustic also protects the photograph that's underneath it.
That's pretty interesting. So, would you say that's where the direction of your work is going now, doing more encaustic work? And how long ago did you start playing with making encaustic work?
I'm definitely doing more encaustic work because it keeps evolving. I think the first encaustic piece I did was probably around 2006.
Yeah, I'd say because it inspired my own work that was in that show in New Hope. So, and that was way back when.
I always wanted to work with it, but that was probably the first time I actually got to the time and
well, you do have quite a few kids that took up quite a bit of your early years.
Yes.
And how many kids do you have?
5.
5 kids.
5 adults.
Yes, they're all adults now. So I think, with them all being adults, do you foresee having more time to work on your personal work as opposed to, rearing a family and working on other projects?
That's the plan, yeah. There's always other projects, though. I'm kind of all over the place. But.
True. Well, is there anything else you want to tell us before we wrap this up? Because I promised you that it would be short and sweet.
Yeah. No, I mean, my whole goal is for do things that make people think, not just to look at and go, that's pretty and walk away, but maybe to be left with a little thought or see how different pieces affect you.
That sounds good. I mean, I think that's a worthy goal. So, and I think that your work achieves that. So congratulations. Cool. And
Thanks.
Thank you for being our artist for September.
Thank you for
and
having me.
We look forward to more work from you. Thanks.